Craig Breslow made some pretty direct statements about the Red Sox offseason this year and his plans, but are you really buying into it?
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part of all of it is it is completely free. So you might as well check it out because Locked On is your team every single day. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. Welcome to Locked On Red Sox and happy Tuesday. Hope you're all off to a good start to the week. I know having playoff baseball definitely helps the week go by fast because even when the Red Sox aren't in it, it's still fun to watch the games and be able to see these teams just go at it. And there's always tons of surprises in the postseason and you really never know. I mean, obviously, of course, the Red Sox being in it would make things a lot more fun for us Red Sox fans here, but in general, I love playoff baseball. October is a great sports month, and I hope you're all enjoying it. And I hope you will enjoy this offseason a little bit more than you did last year. According to Sam Kennedy and Craig Breslow, this is going to be a big offseason for the Red Sox. So on today's show, I'm going to be touching on Craig Breslow finally picking a side once again and kind of declaring how this offseason plans to go for this Red Sox front office, as well as what players need to step up next year that are already on the team in order to ensure that the Red Sox are put in the best position to succeed and fight for a playoff spot. And also, what could be the biggest potential downfall for the Red Sox in 2025? So that is all being discussed on today's show. And Craig Breslow recently went on an episode of the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast, and he was talking about the Red Sox offseason because it's kind of sad to say that October, as a Red Sox fan lately, has not been the most fun, and it's become super lonely because it's that awkward time between the season ending and when they're allowed to start making moves, which is in November when the free agency pool actually opens up. So this is like that awkward in-between time of what are we doing? There's no point in even really talking about or thinking about the Red Sox right now. And I totally get that. And we don't want that feeling as Red Sox fans. Like, we want to be able to be making deep runs in October every year and being relevant all throughout the year. And Craig Breslow seems to understand that because this is a team that has always been a franchise where the playoffs were the expectation. But over the last few years, that just hasn't been the case. And because the team has now missed the playoffs 3 seasons in a row, is this finally the wake-up call that the front office needed to really take things more seriously and start making the right types of moves to improve this team for next year? Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow says yes. He knows that fans are growing very frustrated with the way that this organization has run things the last few seasons and just all the failures that have gone on. And he seems to understand that something needs to change. He took over the front office last November, and his first year in charge, I would say, was definitely mixed. There were some good moves he made, like when he traded for Tyler O'Neill. I mean, O'Neill was good for the Red Sox this year, other than the fact that he couldn't stay on the field all year, but we already knew that he had the injury history, and I think the Red Sox also knew that, but they really wanted his glove in the outfield and they wanted his power bat for sure in a left-handed heavy lineup to be that right-handed power bat. And also getting Justin Slayton was a good move. I mean, he was really good out of the Red Sox bullpen this year, and I expect to see more good things from him in 2025. So he certainly hit on those moves. And I would also even say the Alex Verdugo trade didn't work out in full because Greg Weissert definitely had his struggles this season. But look at Richard Fitz, who came into the mix and threw a few starts for the Red Sox this year and looked really good in those starts. I mean, he's somebody who definitely has a lot of potential. And if he pans out, then the Red Sox could arguably say they won the Verdugo trade because Verdugo hasn't played that well for the Yankees. So you can argue that there were a few moves he made that were good in his first season in charge, but there were other moves that ended up being serious duds. I mean, like trading Chris Sale, which obviously in hindsight, they wouldn't have known that he was going to have the season that he did in Atlanta. But what makes that even more upsetting to me isn't necessarily the fact that they traded Chris Sale and he went off and had that season that he had. I almost would have predicted that would have happened, but more that they weren't able to get out of Vaughn Grissom what they wanted to get out of him this year because injuries prevented that from happening. So now we're in this situation where we're sitting here and Vaughn Grissom hasn't so far been able to provide the same effect as what we wanted him to. So now we're sitting here wondering, is he going to work out in the long run? So that's another thing to think about is, these moves that he's made, what he's capable of doing and not. Because then you look at the trade deadline and the trade deadline moves he made not really panning out either. So what exactly is the issue here? Because the narrative with the Red Sox now has become about what the front office isn't doing more so than what they are doing. And that's something that seriously needs to change in this upcoming offseason. And the Red Sox have definitely taken heat for their lack of spending in past off seasons, as they have trimmed the payroll from first in the league in 2019 to 11th in 2024. Fans have been wondering when that's going to change, as the Red Sox are far from a small market or even a medium market sports town. Like, they are a big market franchise. They should be able to and willing to spend the big money. So on a recent episode of the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast, Craig Breslow did come on and detail a vision for the offseason that he termed, in his words, more decisive and aggressive. But he did avoid specifically talking about spending and free agency. So that remains a mystery whether they'll actually up their spending habits this offseason or not. But he did say, I think we are preparing for that to be the case. We are preparing to be more decisive, more aggressive, to field a team that is capable of winning the division, making a deep playoff run. That was the tone that team president Sam Kennedy struck. That is the messaging I am getting throughout the organization, that it is time to deliver to our fans the team they have come to expect. And that's true. I mean, us as fans expect a winning culture, a winning team, because ever since John Henry purchased the Boston Red Sox, he established that culture of, we are a big market team. We are going to go out there every year and put our best foot forward to get the best possible players that we can to be a competitive team. And the last few years, that has changed, and it's now gotten fans really upset and frustrated, and rightfully so, because we deserve a team that's going to be competitive, as we are the Boston Red Sox, and we deserve to operate like the Yankees and Dodgers operate. That just is what it is. So considering all of this, I mean, the Red Sox do have ample opportunity to build a playoff team next year. They have 3 returning All-Stars. Like, they're all coming back, and they all hopefully will have good seasons next year. They have a huge number of young position players in the system that could come up and really excel with this team. And they have all the profit they could possibly ask for to use on payroll. They have so much money they can spend this offseason. But nobody can be certain how much they're actually going to spend until the free agent window opens in November, because nothing they say is going to convince us that they're actually going to spend that kind of money until they go out and do it. So if Breslow's words prove hollow, it will be a very uncomfortable and precarious 2025 season at Fenway Park, because he seems very confident that they are going to go out and make the moves needed. Red Sox fans crave playoff baseball. That's what we're all here for. And this is the year the front office has to deliver on that promise, because Sam Kennedy has acknowledged that he knows the fans are frustrated and it's time to deliver for the fans. Craig Breslow has now acknowledged that it's time to deliver for the fans. And Alex Cora also has acknowledged that it's time to deliver for the fans. And Cora actually expressed confidence in the front office. He said that he feels like the front office will go out and do what they need to do this offseason to make the moves necessary to put the Red Sox back into contention as a playoff baseball team. And if Alex Cora says it, maybe there was something that was said behind the scenes that led Cora to believe that they are actually going to treat this situation that way and they are actually going to go out and make those moves. Now, they tried to make those moves right after they extended Alex Cora for the next few seasons at the trade deadline. Craig Breslow did pick a side and chose to buy at the deadline. So he bought, but what happened was the players that he bought did not pan out in the way that they should have panned out. I mean, the two big pitching acquisitions that he got in Lucas Sims and Luis Garcia both ended up on the injured list. And before they were on the injured list, they didn't play well at all for the Red Sox. Like, they looked pretty bad on the mound. Then Danny Jansen, who was supposed to be this big right-handed bat that was going to come in and help this team, did not hit well at all. And then James Paxton, obviously, it's tough because he only made it a couple starts and then had to go on the injured list and didn't return after that. Hard to know that that was going to happen, obviously. But it just, in general, the track record that Craig Breslow has so far with initiating trades has not been very good. And to me, I'm not as worried about him telling the truth. I feel like he is telling the truth when he says they're going to be aggressive this offseason. Like, I feel like that actually is going to be the attempt. My concern more is, what does aggressive look like to him? What types of moves does that mean? Because he's kind of on the hot seat now in terms of being able to deliver on the moves that he is making. And if he's going to sit there and say, we're going to be aggressive, that means getting high caliber players in here. And are high caliber players the same to him as they are to me or you? That's what I'm sitting here wondering is, do his words have meaning? I think they do, because he did say before the trade deadline that they're going to look to improve the team at the deadline. And that is exactly what they went out and did. They made moves to add to the team instead of subtracting. It's just that those moves didn't pan out. So it makes me more concerned moving forward for that aspect of it. He is probably going to go out and be aggressive. He is going to go out probably and make a lot of moves. But what types of moves are they going to be? And are they going to be moves that make sense for and benefit the Boston Red Sox? That's the biggest thing I am looking out for as we progress through this offseason for Boston. And coming up, I'm going to be talking about some of the players on the current roster who absolutely also need to step up if the Red Sox are going to make a serious run next year. This episode of Locked On Red Sox is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. You can explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. With hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival's city during the postseason. I use Booking.com all the time. Back when I was working at ESPN and there were bad snowstorms and I couldn't make the commute home because I lived kind of far away, I would have to book a hotel to stay in overnight for my shift the next day, and then ESPN would reimburse me after that. So I would have to find the hotel on my own, and I used Booking.com for all of those hotels, and I was able to get great deals on different places to stay. So that can absolutely be you if you do a lot of traveling or you're looking to maybe go to every major league ballpark or something like that. No matter what it is, Booking.com absolutely has you covered. While Booking.com may have you covered, I'm also hoping the Boston Red Sox have you covered. They need to step things up this offseason. I don't know how many times I have to say that. This is a crucial offseason for a Boston Red Sox team that's all talk and says they're going to improve the team, and it so far hasn't actually happened. And when you look at people like John Henry who say, well, the fans have unrealistic expectations, like, no, we don't have unrealistic expectations. We have reasonable expectations because that's what you set when you came to the Boston Red Sox. We expect a winning culture, a winning environment, and a winning baseball team. So you need to go out and allow Craig Breslow to make the moves to actually make this a winning baseball team. So while we talk about Craig Breslow and moves that need to be made and, hoping that he hits on those moves, there are also players in the Red Sox organization that need to step up next year more so than they did this past year in order for them to be a playoff team. And one of those players is Brayan Bello. He absolutely needs to be more consistent on the mound. We know what we can see from him. We know what he can actually do. And he kind of put himself in this situation because we know that he has the talent level to be a very strong and consistent starting pitcher for this Red Sox team that could pitch in the front end of the rotation. He just didn't really show that he has that ability this past season in 2024. And the second half of the season was certainly better for him because his numbers came a long way from where they were in the first half. So I definitely can appreciate that and the fact that he started to click in the second half. But we need to see second half Brayan Bello all season long. We can't see him struggle in the first half again and us get a version of Brayan Bello that goes out there and is a mess. We need to see the Bello that went out there in the second half and was effective, really attacked the zone, really looked confident out there, utilized his best pitches. And that was a thing early on was he was going away from his fastball a little bit more. And I think that's something that Andrew Bailey was trying to push across the board with the pitching staff is not utilizing the fastball as much. But that strategy didn't work as well for Brayan Bello. So then in the second half of the season, he started to implement that fastball more, and it seemed to work better for him. So he was able to get back on track. So he needs to stick with the pitches that work well for him to be able to give his team the opportunity to succeed more than they did in 2024. So that's one player that I am for sure looking at to grab some success here next year and be able to turn things around. Another player that I'm hoping to see more of in 2025 is a player who was injured for most of the season this year, and that is Triston Casas. Casas obviously got the short end of the stick by not being able to play in that many games, goes on the injured list and then comes back, and then he does start to contribute a little bit. But he started off really slow when he came back from the IL. So nobody will really ever know what type of season he would have if he had been here all season long, but I'm inclined to believe it would have been a really good one. He was on track after the rookie season he had last year to go off in 2024 after learning the ropes of a lot of different things related to being part of the Boston Red Sox organization. And he was ready to go out there and perform. And because of his injury, we didn't really get to see Triston Casas in full force doing what he loves to do and actually going out there and contributing. So that's somebody who's going to need to have a big season in 2025. I mean, he might be a little rusty. He might get a little tired because it's been a while since he's played that many games of baseball consecutively since he was away for so long this past season. So I'm going to look to him to step up in 2025 and be able to get back to full form and get back to the star-studded first baseman that we know and that we have on this team. Because if not, if he starts to struggle, then first base could be a issue for this team. And we don't want to be at the point where infielders are a question mark because we've had too many narratives over the last few seasons where the infield was a question mark, particularly the middle infield between shortstop and second base and who was going to be playing where, and the Red Sox not really having defined people in those roles. So now with a hopefully healthy Trevor Story, he can be the defined shortstop, or you move him to second base and have Rafael be the defined shortstop, or you bring somebody in, who knows, but Triston Casas is the first baseman, and I would hate for it to be a situation where he's not performing and then he gets discouraged and it affects his long-term future with this team. And I also don't want it to be a situation where they're going in and getting Garrett Cooper and Dom Smith to help fill holes until Casas comes back. I mean, I did like Dom Smith for sure, and he really delivered as a big part of this Red Sox team when he was out there. But I want to make sure that our first baseman is consistent and is playing, and that is Casas. So we definitely need him to step up. Another player that comes to mind, that pops into my head when it comes to players who need to do more is Sadam Rafaela. I mean, yes, he's phenomenal defensively, made some great plays out there in the outfield and when he was at shortstop, but he still needs work at the plate. His bat definitely needs to step up a lot more in 2025 than it did in 2024, because we're looking at a guy who has so much potential to be among the best players in the league. He just needs to develop more plate discipline still, not being so swing happy and being willing to take more pitches. And we saw him improve in this area in the second half of the season for sure. We saw him get better at the plate, and he was starting to pick up on things that worked for him and things that didn't work for him. But he needs to get to the point where he's totally confident at the plate and he's going out there, putting his best foot forward and contributing in a way that we can sit there and say he is a multiple tool player. He can contribute offensively and defensively. It was just tough watching his offense sometimes in 2024 because he wasn't always necessarily a guy who we could rely on at the plate. So another player who definitely needs to do more in 2025. And Cutter Crawford for sure needs to do more in 2025. I mean, he had a good 2023 season, and I had said I wasn't fully sold on him yet, that I needed to see more from him before I declare him this really strong pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. And sure enough, he struggled in 2024, especially with the home run ball. That is something he needs to change for the 2025 season, is figure out, okay, what exactly is it that I'm doing that's causing a lot of these baseballs to leave the ballpark? Because that was his biggest downfall in terms of his consistency and his command and the actual pitches that he had in his arsenal. That's all good. He has a lot of tools up his sleeve to be able to be successful. The problem was just that he was letting the ball leave the park too much, and it would get him into a hole early in games that it was really hard to climb out of. So that's something he's going to need to figure out moving forward, is what do I do to fix this and to not allow as many home runs. So he's another player who absolutely needs to do more in 2025. And the list definitely goes on. I mean, you could point to certain areas of the season and say this player didn't do enough at this time. But the reality is, these are cornerstone pieces, guys who are likely going to be here for a long time, that we need to do more in order for this Red Sox vision to truly come to life, of having a solid core of players, especially once the guys in the minor leagues come up to contribute, that will be the guys who are our future and determine what the Boston Red Sox will be down the road. So many players that need to step up and do more. So that is definitely just as much of a fault as everything else with the front office and the lack of moves was earlier on. And coming up, I'm going to be talking about what the potential biggest downfall could be for the Boston Red Sox in 2025 that could prevent them again from being a playoff team. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Talk about a great deal. You can literally be sitting in the middle of a game and say, okay, do I think this team is going to come back right now? And if they do, you could win tons of money. And it's a great deal during football season. So make sure you download FanDuel ASAP if you haven't already. The other app you should be downloading is Game Time, which is a great vendor for tickets for any live event you're interested in going to. Maybe it's a concert or a sporting event, or maybe you like going to comedy shows or something. You name it, whatever that live event is, Game Time has you covered, because it will always generate lower ticket prices than other ticketing vendors. And it shows you the view directly from your seat, so you can ensure that you are sitting in a spot that's not an obstructed view. For example, when I go to Fenway Park and I buy tickets on Game Time, I always want to make sure I'm not going to be stuck behind one of those green poles and not be able to see anything. And it actually shows you that, so you can ensure that it's worth the money. All you have to do is just download the Game Time app and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. I promise you will not be disappointed with it. Whenever I compare it to other ticketing vendors, it always has cheaper prices. So make sure that you use it for all of your ticketing needs moving forward. In talking about the Boston Red Sox and the front office and Craig Breslow and the moves he's going to make this offseason to make this team hopefully a contender once again, there are players on this Red Sox team that also need to step up. And I went over some of those in the last segment of the show here. But considering everything, in order for the Red Sox to be a playoff team, there are things that could go right and there are things that could go wrong. And what exactly could be the potential biggest downfall for this Red Sox team? Health. That is the biggest thing that stands out to me as what could be the deciding factor. The Red Sox had tons of injuries in 2024, and I still think despite the fact that they had all these injuries, I still wouldn't have picked them to be a playoff team. They just had too many problems, especially with the bullpen and things just not going their way for a variety of reasons. So I wouldn't have necessarily pinned the injuries as the reason they didn't make the playoffs in 2024. But if they go out and they genuinely are aggressive and they're serious about this, and Breslow makes the type of moves that he needs to make the Boston Red Sox a competitive team in 2025, health to me will be the biggest thing and the biggest downfall for this team if they don't make the playoffs. I mean, you're looking at Devers, who's been battling the shoulder thing. Can he stay healthy in 2025? You're looking at a pitching staff that was completely worn down in 2024. Can that be prevented in 2025 to prevent some injuries? And if they do have injuries to a pitcher, how are they going to compensate for that? Are they going to throw the same guys out there every day like they did this year when we saw like Zach Kelly and Cam Boozer throwing every single day out of the pen and they got worn down? Are they going to be able to have that sustainability in that bullpen so that guys can go out and be able to perform? Is Lucas Giolito going to come back 100% and be able to contribute out of this rotation? Or is he going to still be dealing with some nagging pain from the injury that he faced? Is he going to be reliable? Liam Hendriks, another one, a wild card, a guy who has dealt with a lot over the course of his career and is coming back from Tommy John surgery. Is he going to be 100% healthy for the start of the season? And if so, is he going to be able to stay on the field? And how is his body going to react after coming back? Because you never really know with Tommy John surgery how a player is going to be when they come back. Is he going to be effective? Not effective? Is he even going to stay healthy? Is he going to experience pain? And Trevor Story, you can also say, is another big one when it comes to the health conversation. He's somebody who has had trouble staying on the field in his time with the Boston Red Sox. So I would like to see a full season of Trevor Story where he's going out there and making the massive impact that he has made defensively on this team, continuing to go out there and make that defensive impact and stay healthy in the process and also get his bat going. Because yes, he has struggled at the plate, but he's also missed lots of stints throughout these couple seasons that he's been in Boston. So the thing with him is going to be, is he going to be able to get past that hump and just stay healthy and be at the point where he's able to go out there, take care of business, and be a guy that the Red Sox knew they were getting or hoped to be getting when they signed him? So lots of question marks surrounding the Red Sox health. And I know with Story, it's just been a crazy situation. I mean, just an unfortunate injury that he faced at the beginning of 2024. And he was actually able to come back earlier than people thought because he was ahead of schedule. And that's all great and all that. But is he going to experience another tough injury during the season? He's somebody who absolutely has to stay on the field because he definitely makes the Red Sox a better defensive team when he is out there. And then you have Tyler O'Neill. Are they even going to bring Tyler O'Neill back? And if they do bring him back, is he somebody who's going to be able to stay on the field? Because he, in the course of his career, has had a history of not being able to always stay healthy. And that's another big thing that's popping into my head about him, is if they do bring him back, is he going to be able to be on the field enough to make a big impact on this Red Sox team? Because I unfortunately still am not convinced that he's going to be able to do that. So lots of players in the mix here who have a track record of not necessarily being able to stay on the field and be healthy. And if they don't have their guys healthy, they will have a lot of trouble contending. Garrett Whitlock, you can even add to the list, somebody who has faced a plethora of injuries in his time with Boston and hasn't been able to pitch for long periods of time, really at all in his time here, because of the fact that he constantly has something going on. So there are lots of players that we need to be healthy. If the Red Sox are healthy and they go out and make the moves they need to make to fix this team, they will be a playoff team. There's so much talent on this team and so much talent in this system. It's just a matter of being able to capitalize on that talent. And I think over the last few years, not only have injuries hurt them, but they also just haven't been able / willing to plug in the right pieces to add to the competitive roster that they already have, especially from an offensive standpoint. We know this team can hit. They've shown that over and over and over again. And we know they have the means to be able to be a team that can go out there and produce offense on any given night, even against the toughest pitchers in baseball. The issue is just going to be, are those guys all going to be able to be healthy? Because the more players that get injured, the more backups you're putting in and the more you're trying to compensate for not having your best group of players out there. And that's something that the Red Sox need to try to avoid. And obviously it's out of their control if guys stay healthy. Not their fault if somebody gets injured, but if somebody does get injured, they need to be able to have enough depth to where if they slot somebody else in there, that they can at least feel confident with that player. Like David Hamilton, for example, got a lot of playing time this year due to injuries, and he showed that he has value by having that speed on the base paths, so he could be partnered up with Duran and Rafaela to try to put some pressure on opposing pitchers and get runs on the board. That's a big example of a player that they're maximizing the potential of, and they need to try to maximize potential of players that exist on this roster in case they do face injuries, so that they're not put in too tough of a place of saying, wow, we have so many injuries on this team, so we're kind of done for the season now. We don't want to end up in that position. We want the Red Sox to have enough depth to where if somebody does go down, they can truly make up for it and not feel like, oh, well, our season is over because we have too many injuries. So that's a lot of what the biggest key is going to be for this Red Sox team going into 2025. And also Breslow and company following through, pushing the right buttons, making the right moves, and generating a team that's going to be competitive. Like I always say, though, we have to hope as fans that that happens, and we just have to continue to keep the faith because that's what Red Sox fans do. Thank you for making my show your first listen today. Be sure to check out Locked On MLB next with host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, who will keep you all up to date on all things going on in the playoffs. You can find his show wherever you listen to podcasts. So make sure you check that out next. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.